Picture this. It's 1970 and the world is plagued with injustices and pressing social problems. You look to the left and the government has long neglected these challenges. They don't have the funding. You look to the right and major corporations turn a blind eye. They are simply not interested. With no action, the rich are getting richer and the poor even poorer. An upward curve of this trend is set to trigger the demise of humanity. So who will save the people? Well, not exactly, but more like his idea of complementing great power with great responsibility, which is by no means alien to the entrepreneurial world. Today, money is the first and the foremost indicator of power, and when in power, people often fall prone to the deluded idea of making themselves look good by giving away a penny in the name of $1,000. Sorry, we meant to say CSR. Either way, Warren Buffett's son Peter refers to CSR as conscience laundering, which is giving back to the society to feel better for accumulating more money than any person could ever possibly need. So what do we need then, Mr. Buffett? Is this all going to be criticism for criticism's sake? Well, this is where we live on to see the rise of social entrepreneurship firms which change the game with their philosophy of combining impact and profit to compensate for the damage we have all been causing by our actions to make Earth great again. Now, back to the history lesson, we find ourselves in 1998 when Professor Gregory Dees set the foundation for what we now know as social entrepreneurship by blending traditional capitalism with the desire to address the planet's most pressing problems. With new models for a new century, we step into the 2000s with a combination of the passion of a social mission and an image of business-like discipline, innovation, and determination to fill the gaps that governmental and philanthropic efforts have fallen far short of. Fast forward to 2010, we see the birth of the world's largest movement for social good dedicated to solving the most pressing social challenges. Hult Prize. KK, break it down for us.
Thanks, Gabriella. So what started as an idea in an MBA classroom is now recognized by former President Bill Clinton and the Time magazine as one of the top 5 ideas changing the world. If I asked you right now to name an entrepreneur extraordinaire who is changing the world, I bet you'll typically conjure up names like Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg. Rich, white, tech-savvy American men. Stereotypical, right? Instead, let us introduce you to a non-typical entrepreneur with an ordinary life who achieved extraordinary results. This is the story of a young Palestinian immigrant, Ahmad Ashkar, who will go down in history for transforming what social entrepreneurship means for students across the globe. Born in the Middle East but growing up in Kansas City from the early age of 8, Ashkar, like many other immigrant children, was forcefully assimilated into Western culture through football. Having never played American football before, many of his peers mocked and doubted him, but by his senior year of high school, he became the Kansas Player of the Year. Through such determination and resilience, Avila University recognized his one-of-the-kind fighting spirit and awarded him a full scholarship to study finance and marketing. These are the personality traits that have consistently spilled into his entrepreneurial journey. After graduation, he built his career working as an investment banker on Wall Street, and as early as the age of 25, he was one of the top investment bankers trading billions between the Middle East and the US each year. Dream job, great salary, beautiful family, living the American dream. Sounds like the perfect life, right? Then boom, the financial crisis brought everything crashing down overnight. The United States, Wall Street, and Ashkar's career along with it. So he began to rethink his purpose. There has to be more from life, but how could he recognize what that was for him? Well, like every other person having a quarter-life crisis, he enrolled for an MBA. It was at Hult International Business School in Dubai that he has his breakthrough moment while sitting in a social business marketing class guest lectured by Chuck Kane, the CEO of One Laptop Per Child. Chuck said, and I quote, "If only I had more business people that had on-ground experience with social issues." From this, Ashkar had an aha moment and asked himself, What if I could bring thousands of business students together to help solve social issues commercially through startups? All it took was one post-lecture conversation and it was decided. He would launch an inaugural competition for social initiatives that make profit. Unfunded at the time, fate intervened in the shape of one of the world's richest men, Bertil Hult, a Swedish entrepreneur who is worth an estimated $5 billion US. From Bertil, Ashkar not only received $1 million as prize money, but also successfully negotiated long-term funding for the prize, under the condition that he would name it after the Hult family. With the keys to the city and the bag secured, Ashkar set about building the enterprise with his team of classmates. All that was left now was to find someone prominent enough to be the face of the prize. 3 weeks, a couple of phone calls, a few flights, and numerous meetings later, President Bill Clinton had agreed to set the challenge for the 2011 Hult Prize and announce a partnership with the Clinton Global Initiative. Oh, the irony. When Ashkar started his MBA in 2009, without ever hearing of social entrepreneurship before, now a decade on, hundreds of thousands of students are becoming young social entrepreneurs because of him.
Alright guys, welcome to 90 Seconds. Today, what is often referred to as the Nobel Prize for Students, the Hult Prize is the world's largest student competition that brings students from around the globe to solve the world's most pressing social challenges. Now the Hult Prize, according to our reports, was born at a time when the UN's MDGs were being replaced by the SDGs. Now this was a critical time for the UN to have an ally like Hult that would be its flag bearer and spread the word. This was also the moment that our news tell us that shaped Hult's core strategy and actually has been the source of impact it has been causing ever since. Now we have online with us Mr. Ahmad himself, who his followers often refer to as the Mayor of Impact. Let's head straight to him for we have some pressing questions for him. So Mr. Ashkar, could you please go in a little more detail and tell us what the Hult Prize has to offer?
Very, very simple. We provide students, college students around the world, who have effectively no experience in business, no experience in impact, no experience with anything other than seeking out a degree, okay? And we transform them into agents of change.
May I ask how exactly?
The way that we do that is by, number one, inspiring. Our job, my job is to inspire you, and your job is to inspire others to think about this idea of impact and how to get sustainable impact through enterprise. Two, this is the idea of education. I will teach you how to achieve impact through business. The third thing we do at the Hult Prize is we give you guys, young people, an opportunity to compete, right? So many times you're inspired or you learn at school, but you don't have a chance to actually put your learning into practice. And that's something we take pride at the Hult Prize. The fourth thing we do is we actually accelerate. So whether you're competing on campus or whether you go on to compete at one of our many regionals around the world, or you qualify all the way to our accelerator, we take pride in moving you from a very basic idea to a full-blown commercial business that's in the market, having impact and making money. The fifth thing we do at the Hult Prize is we scale. And we do that through funding. We do that through connecting you to our amazing network. And we take them and we use that influence, that knowledge, that inspiration to help you take your business and go to market.
All right, guys, you've heard it from the man himself. I'm hearing that now we have a caller with us. I'd like for my colleague Ahmad to please take over. Ahmad?
Yeah, thank you, Kiki. I'll take it from here. Peter, go ahead.
Thanks, Ahmad. So I was just listening to the beautiful story, but honestly, I'm not quite sold. Do you think you can take a few questions?
Sure, go ahead.
So firstly, I want to talk about how you have been heroically going on explaining about your CEO, Mr. Ashkar. So that is one thing that is becoming notorious with social enterprises, where an individual is taking all the limelight and applause over their individualistic achievements. But doesn't that hinder the cause itself?
Right. So, unlike traditional social enterprises, when you think of Hult Prize, you think of the students, team of diverse employees, the UN, Bill Clinton, the Hult family, and finally, the CEO.
Basically, Hult solved this misinterpretation marketing challenge by creating a unified community which is trying to achieve one vision and proves that by combining forces into one social community, it becomes easier and faster to achieve the SDGs.
The SDGs? So which one does the Hult Prize focus on?
I'm glad you asked that. So this is where Hult really shines through the spectrum of social enterprises. Hult sets its annual challenges with a different combination of the UN's SDGs every year to cater to a new social challenge.
For instance, one year they might address the refugee crisis, another year they seek to tackle the global food crisis. In essence, the Hult Prize itself is the practical implication of SDG number 17, which states to strengthen the means of implementation and revitalize the global partnership for sustainable development. This basically equips it to work as a key intermediary between the UN and the world for the implementation of the remaining SDGs.
Wow! So that's like saying, why go for one social issue when you can create a lasting solution to a completely new one? I must say, I'm a little impressed there. But how can you claim such a global impact when the high geographical diversity in the world asks for geographically suited solutions to their respective social issues?
Great question. So, Hult solves this challenge by allowing students at over 3,500 universities in 150 countries to co-create value in finding different innovative solutions to major global issues.
This is done by giving an equal opportunity platform, which makes it a global innovation hub. Through applying their open innovation techniques, Hult distinguishes its unique model of enabling societies to solve their own problems themselves rather than waiting for someone else to do it for them.
But what if a social issue keeps repeating itself? Isn't your effort good for nothing?
You see, Hult bases its challenge each year on the most pressing social issues in line with the SDGs.
But look at it this way. Hult might be addressing a challenge for 1 year, but at the end of the year, it's going to give the world an entire social enterprise focused on that very issue for the rest of its operational life.
In that case, how does your organization cope with mission drift? I mean, such is the case with many social enterprises or entrepreneurs where they find it difficult to remain true to their original mission as they mature or grow in scope.
So, Hult does a tremendous job in outsourcing its mission with the multiplier effect to students and aspiring entrepreneurs.
Giving the world an entirely new social enterprise helps Hult and its allies keep their mission as fresh as it was on the day of its inception. The equity Hult holds in the business it sets up enables it to avoid the mission drift even more.
But tell me something, why would someone even start a social enterprise when they can start a commercial one which could be much more rewarding? I'm talking about lack of motive here.
So, there's actually an ideology at Hult, which is indeed very close to the core values. Hult basically asks young entrepreneurs to make businesses that are both for good and for profit.
This is one of the first things conveyed to the participants as Hult realizes its importance in today's scheme of things. The idea is that social entrepreneurship is and should be different from pure philanthropy or charity. The difference here is that social entrepreneurs, on their quest of providing social value, can generate profits, and these profits will in turn help them sustain and develop their social business so that they can grow and continue helping more and more people.
Hult Prize itself is based on the triple bottom line, where its core strategies are based on 3 major pillars: people, planet, and profit. This helps the firm achieve social equity, environmental stewardship, and economic prosperity without prioritizing one over the other.
That sums up everything perfectly. Thanks for your time, Ahmad.
My pleasure, Peter. You know what? We have told you all about the front stage action. Now let's take you behind the scenes where the magic happens.
So, the story starts in the implementation where key allies like the UN and CGI, among others, combine with key resources comprised of global linkages and student community. Together, they form key activities that include the annual competition cycle and various other social programs. Then analyzing the market, customer segments like students join with channels such as the on-campus programs to provide the consumer benefits. These include the mentoring, networking, and entrepreneurial development that Hult Prize is recognized for. When the market meets with implementation, that's where the true value is created. The innovation in the model stands out by showing how a business can be so fluid, yet so effective, taking on all of the UN's 17 SDGs year in, year out. thanks to key allies and stakeholders, the cost of delivery gets narrowed down to logistics and marketing. On the other hand, Hult's revenue comes from the 20% equity retained in each business it helps set up every year. Nevertheless, Hult doesn't forget to reinvest in the community by giving the world impactful enterprises and $1 million in seed funding to strive both for good and for profit.
It is also worth mentioning here that Hult Prize achieves its saliency by gaining power, legitimacy, and agency through its definitive stakeholders. Hult's power is driven at both the utilitarian and normative ends, and its agency captures time sensitivity as well as criticality. The legitimacy that Hult's definitive stakeholders like Bill Clinton and the UN bring doesn't leave much room for error. This is what gives them competitive advantage over all other such-like social enterprises, making it a sustainable business that is producing more social enterprises that provide unique shared value. In summary, the path of social entrepreneurship is difficult, but there are many organizations dedicated to making the path less complex. Hult Prize is one of the most renowned. We can map Hult's success in its mission by looking at the array of businesses it has helped set up under a unique challenge each year in line with the SDGs. Just taking a quick look at 2013's winner, Aspire Food Group. Thanks to Hult, today they are turning farm insects into high-quality protein to serve peri-urban communities in Ghana and helping to solve the global food crisis.
Now, let's rush over to the SWOT analysis so we can critically analyze the aforementioned business model. Just taking a sneak peek back into the strengths, we can recall the tremendous strategic partnerships, the global community, and the access to experts, to name a few. As for weaknesses, we find 3 worth mentioning here. These include the lack of diverse revenue sources, a less than perfect level of marketing, followed by a dire risk of bad investment due to the winner-takes-all model. Coming to opportunities, Hult has been successful in converging the social change marketing from a position of market push to market pull, meaning the world is now expecting more significant input from social enterprises. More than ever, this is the opportunity for Hult Prize to further penetrate the market. Lastly, with the threats, we want to talk about something that could potentially be a career-ending threat for the organization. What would happen if the Hult family, that is the backbone of the entire enterprise, stops funding or pulls the strings to a dead end?
Therefore, by using a scenario planning framework, we have outlined a contingency plan designed to suit different arising situations. In this case, we can rationally have 2 approaches, the proactive one and the reactive one. Starting with the proactive approach, which we highly recommend, Mr. Ashkar has 3 options on his hand. Firstly, adopting a circular model that shifts their focus from funding only to one that utilizes the dividends from the shares invested each year. Secondly, he could form a social investor TV show similar to Shark Tank, or alternatively create an online forum providing social entrepreneurship courses. Finally, he can diversify their investor portfolio and move into a more secure position. As a last resort, there is the less preferable yet potentially effective reactive approach where Mr. Ashkar could simply go public with his enterprise and shoot for the moon. Going to a close, we do have some recommendations for growth and development. We believe that Hult can do better than funding just one startup each year with their specialized growth models. They can also look into including graduates in their model to widen their reach and expand their open innovation techniques. Lastly, we just wanted to ask, have you ever heard of the Hult Prize before? Probably not. That's the thing. Imagine an organization with such a global footprint and game-changing stakeholders sadly has a marketing team who had one job and one job only and failed to do it right. But that's besides the point. To you, Hult Prize might not mean anything, but to thousands of people across the globe, it is an emblem of the transformative change that takes place when young people come together. However, the Hult Prize is just a cog in the wheel. Zooming out to see the bigger picture, social entrepreneurship cannot solely save the world. We must all come together to establish partnerships across industries and contexts to make a meaningful difference in society, one step at a time.